As we have a 1-hour webinar today, and I can see that there is quite a lot of people, but I think we already start to reach a very good number. I will start this webinar now, and I will start with some opening remarks to everybody. So, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on overview, useful tools for seed health protocol development and data analysis. My name is Rose Sosa-Riches, and I'm excited to have all of you joining us for this very valuable session. Today's seed industry, ensuring the health of seed lots through robust protocol development and data analysis is very critical. This webinar will focus on two essential tools that support this process, SeedCalc and the Langton tool. These tools offer significant benefits for determining sample sizes, ensuring accurate detection of infestation levels in seed lots, and of course, analyzing data from multi-laboratory studies. We will also touch on repeatability, reproducibility, and how to interpret the results from various detection methods. Our expert speakers today are leaders in this field. Kirk Remond will provide an overview of key tools for seed health protocol development, emphasizing the importance of selecting representative sample size for accurate seed health tests. Jean-Louis Lafont will dive into data analysis techniques for seed health, focusing on the statistical methods for multi-laboratory collaborative studies, as well as repeatability and reproducibility in seed health tests, aligned with ISO 5725 standards. We'll also be discussing how SeedCalc, a powerful Excel-based tool, can help determine the appropriate sample size for seed health testing. Additionally, we'll explore how tools developed by the ISTA Statistics Committee are applying both large commercial seed lots and smaller ones to ensure precise data. Before we move ahead, I would like to introduce Ruud Bannon from Nachtenbouw. He is the ISTA chair for the Seed Health Committee, and he will be able to provide some opening remarks from the ISTA side, as we have the two main speakers of this webinar. It is from the ISTA Seed Health Committee. And afterwards, we will have Ruud will introduce our moderator for the day, and then we start this very, very important, very valuable webinar. Ruud?
Thank you, Rose, for introducing me and inviting me to this webinar, and thank you for organizing this on behalf of ISF. Just to introduce a little bit on how this webinar came into place is the ever-growing need of good validated methods for seed health testing. Validation dates back from the 1980s, but evolved massively by the increase of innovative methods as well for detection of different pathogens on seeds. With that, also statistics and numbers came into place, and also the tools that statistical analysis can give us in understanding quality of the different performance criteria needed to be proved for validation is very essential, and is organized and established by the ISTA Statistics Committee. And therefore, since validation is not done by different organizations as such, but is done as a general execution for seed health protocol developments, we joined forces, ISF and ISTA, in organizing this webinar, and use the tool that the ISTA Statistics Committee has put together, and I use myself in very often as well for the validations I do in my own laboratory. Well, with that, and not spending any more time on introducing, I will give the word to Moti Saban, who is actually the moderator of today, and is here since he has a very important role from the perspective of ISF, where he is currently the chair of the Comparative Test Committee guideline group, dealing with a lot of statistics themselves. Go ahead, Moti. Sergio, you're not on mute.
Thank you very much, Ruud, for your kind introduction. Sergio, can you please mute your computer? Thank you. So hello, everyone, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm not going to be long. This is going to be on statistics. I will just want to say just a few outline on what we're going to have. We have Kirk and Jean-Louis, which will present their presentation on statistics, and I really couldn't ask for a better presenters than Kirk and Jean-Louis. Their names are very famous for people in the industry. I'm sure you have heard about them in the seed industry if you have been working here for statistics. They're really the cutting edge of statistics in agriculture. Please keep your microphone muted for the entire meeting. Because we're a lot of people, there are a lot of noise, so whoever is not speaking, please make sure that your microphone is muted. After the presentation, we will have a Q&A, and we're a lot of people. I will try to gather as much questions as possible, but we will end on time. Just make sure on that. So that's it. I'm not going to take more time. Without further ado, I will give the floor to our main stars here. Go ahead, please.
Great. Thanks, Moti, and for that nice introduction, and Rose as well. Thank you so much, and Ruud. Yeah, if you could share, Jean-Louis, our slides. So yeah, we're honored to be here with this group and appreciate this invitation and opportunity. Yeah, Jean-Louis and I will as chair and co-chair of the statistics committee are happy to present, and if you put that into presentation mode, Jean-Louis. So we will give you I think a taste of some of the tools that are available for seed health testing. Just a taste, a primer today, and we will look for opportunity maybe in other forums to go in more detail and share them at length and some of the other options. But indeed, we will show two tools, Seed Calc and an implementation of the Langston's method. There we go. Thanks, Jean-Louis. Looks great. Maybe the next slide there, please. Yeah. So this is just kind of an overview. Again, it'll be a primer. We'll look at some tools, developing seed health protocols, data analysis, and more specifically, a tool to look at determine the number of seeds to sample to ensure the ability to detect it at some level of infestation or disease presence level within a lot. And then also we'll look at a tool to look at the detection methods based on multi-laboratory collaborative studies, and that's certainly a part of that method validation that Ruud had referenced. So to be more concise, we will talk about sample size in seed health testing. So if you remember back to your favorite statistics class, and you talked about power and sample size, well, it's akin to that, and we'll talk about that in Seed Calc, and I'll have the honor to talk about that, and then Jean-Louis will talk about analysis of multi-laboratory comparative studies and using again an implementation of the Langston tool. So without further ado, we'll just jump right in and get started. So whenever we're doing any type of testing of seed lots for any property, or even as it relates to method validation, we need to do a sampling exercise. What do we mean by sampling? So what we mean by sampling is like as defined here in Wikipedia. Basically, we want to take a selection of a subset from some larger population, okay? So we have a large population, it could be small population too, but we take a subset of that, and we measure the property on that subset or sample, and then we make a statement back to the lot in its entirety or population in its entirety. More specifically for seed testing, here on the left, you can see we have a seed lot. This example this probably is a row cropped seed lot. Could be maize, could be soybeans or oilseed rape or something. But for our interest in the veg area, could be a vegetable seed lot. All right, and we need to do some sampling. We need to obtain that subset of seed, and that little blue arrow that says sampling. This is quite it's an important effort. and it needs to be done the right way to get a representative sample. And then we get to these N seeds. We use this parameter N, small n, to be actually physically the number of seeds that we test in a working sample to do some type of estimation. Again, back to that seed lot. We could be measuring various properties. It could be germination, could be physical purity, could be percent GM seeds in terms of adventitious presence or low-level presence, or on the other side could be, if it's a GM variety, could be a trait purity. But for us today, we're more interested in seed health properties. So we may want to come in and be able to make a statement that we're 95% confident that the percentage of infested seeds is, less than some given threshold, okay, or level of detection. All right. So again, it's key that that sample needs to be representative of the lot. And this is something that's called out in ISTA, the ISTA rules, and various other bodies also have this requirement for a representative lot, a representative sample from that seed lot. We need to have it such that it's selected such that we have a precise estimate with low uncertainty. So as we show here, that ISTA does have some procedures to address the challenges of getting getting a sample from a seed lot. So one thing that's important when it comes to sampling is that we have some level of uniformity in that seed lot. This is managed within ISTA. It's managed by lot sizes for different species. Also, there's another tool that's used to test for heterogeneity within a lot. So there's always some level of heterogeneity, but we want a low level to where we could call it uniform from a practical standpoint. All right. So even if with some degree of nominal heterogeneity, low heterogeneity, we go in and we sample at multiple sampling points. And I should also state here that we need to have a sampling objective. And within ISTA, primarily the sampling objective is to look at the bulk properties of a seed lot. Okay. So to do this, we're sampling in multiple sampling points. And these multiple sampling points we call primary samples. Like you see in the schematic, or the little graph over on the right, each of these little blue squares represents a random position, or it could also be a systematic position. Actually, sometimes we do that to get these primary samples. So these primary samples, there's some ISTA requirements based on seed lot size. You can see here in this table, it's pulled from the rules. Just for example, if we have a small seed lot up to 500 kg, that's just a general rule. We're looking at 5 primary samples. And then as you can see, as the seed lot size increases, the number of primary samples increases. All right, all the way up to a very large lot where we're sampling, minimally 40 primary samples, or 40 of those little blue dots within that square, which represents the seed lot. Yeah. Well, how do we obtain those primary samples? Well, it depends upon whether the seed lot is sitting in a static state, is sitting in a container, or whether the seed is flowing through a process. And there's ways to collect those primary samples with, like you can see there, that stick trier. And actually, I don't know if you can probably can't see my video, but I'm showing you a type of a trier right here with an inner and outer barrel that you can collect one type of a sampling tool to sample static seed. Also, there's automated samplers, a cross-cut type sampler that ISTA approves if you're sampling seed in a flow, which is actually a more desirable state if possible, but you can also get a good sample if you're sampling seed static. So these primary samples are collected together into a composite sample. And then we need to mix that sample well and divide that sample well. That's very important. So once we take the primary samples and get down to a composite, we're not done sampling. We still need to reduce that composite sample and mix it such using dividers, like we show here. It's the approved dividers to get a appropriate reduced or submitted sample that will go to the labs. There's an ISTA handbook on seed sampling that's available, very useful, very good information there. There's been some webinars in the past. I think some of those videos are still available out on the ISTA website that talk about how to sample, also how to divide samples. Once we get this submitted sample, we break it down into working samples. So a working sample is actually physically the number of seed you test for a given test within the assay. It could be germination, purity. Again, we're interested today in seed health. So we're trying to get that sample size so that we're able to test to a targeted level of precision. So that's there's tools available. There's actually theory, logic available, whether you have a large lot, like a large commercial seed lot, or whether you're dealing with a small seed lot, maybe at the within a company at a when you have just a small amount of seed in the increase process. But first, for the commercial seed lot, we assume that we have here this true unknown proportion of seeds with the infestation level. We call that pi. Okay, so this is a property that we want to know about. We want to know about that infestation level. We take the primary samples, the composite, the submitted sample, and then we take the number of seeds N for the seed health test, right, that we're going to do. All right. Now there's a known level. Well, there's an unknown level of infested seeds in that seed lot. We can do this using a statistical distribution called a binomial, which we have pi is that true unknown level of infestation we want to estimate, n is the number of seed we're going to test. So we can model that very nicely with the binomial distribution. And that's what seed calc uses. I'll show you in a few slides is the basis for the calculation of sample size. Some nice papers, just this one here from 2019. Jean-Louis is the lead author that talks about this exact theoretical distributions around replica seeds and germination tests, but it has utility beyond that. It's a very important paper, and it's important even in the seed health space. Okay, so you also could have a small lot. Maybe you could hold the whole lot in your hand at this very early stage. You know, I've got, and you know the number of seeds in that lot, capital N's, the number of seeds in that seed lot. And in that case, there's some unknown number of infested seed. That's not a proportion now, it's a number of infested seed within that seed lot. And we're trying to estimate the number of infested seed. So again, we're going to take a sample N of seeds. But this is distributed as this thing we call the hypergeometric distribution. Don't worry about these big words. Don't worry, Jean-Louis and I have you covered with these tools. But just to give you some confidence that there's a strong theoretical statistical basis to these tools and the calculations we give. This hypergeometric distribution is a function of the population size, the number of seeds that are infested in that seed lot, and of course the sample size. Kind of a common rule of thumb we use is that if your population is greater than 10 times your sample size, then you can use the binomial probabilities or seed calc. If that property doesn't hold, then we want to go back and use a hypergeometric tool, which I'll show you here in a moment. So great. So let's get a little bit more specific now. Coming in here, we're talking about we wanted the number of seeds to determine according to the type of test. At some target level position, how many seeds do we need? Okay, so we'll focus in. We'll talk briefly about some sister tests, if you will, to the seed health test, and that's the germination test. What's the N required for that? Well, given a lot of work within ISTA, work by Jean-Louis and I and our predecessors, we decided, well, with a 400 seed test, you can reach the level of precision for this type of test. And sometimes we may need to have a smaller number of seeds, maybe 100 seeds, just because of the size of the value of the seeds. But the general rule is 400 seed test. It's based on that binomial distribution. And also for purity, within the ISTA rules, I'll also with some work done, that purity test based on a Poisson distribution. We didn't talk about that one yet, but nevertheless, it's what we use for the purity distribution. We're looking at 2,500 seeds. okay, to do for, and then for other seed determination, there's a larger sample size, but this just give you an idea of the N, the small N for these other sister tests. But what about the seed health test? What do we need for this? Well, we have some good guidance there. And there's this nice standard of phytosanitary standard here that has some great information, and we're going to follow some of the logic from this document and a calculation we're going to do in seed calc. So within this phytosanitary document, it's talking about some properties that are important to us. First, the confidence level, okay? The confidence in the seed testing result we have, and for example here, 95%. Also the level of detection, okay? This is an important one, which is, and there's a little down here below, you can see here, there's a subsection here on that. We're really looking at the minimum percentage or proportion of infestation that the sampling methodology wants to detect. So we want to know, okay, well, what level do we really need to detect down to? And that whatever the pathogen is, you know, be it TOBRFV or whatever, what level do we want to detect down to? Is it 0.5%? Is it 5%? Is it 1%? Maybe it's 0.1%. Okay, that's the limit of detection we want to be able to make that confidence statement about, that 95% confidence statement about. Also, what's the number, the acceptance number? Now, what are we talking about here? This is the acceptance number in the sample. How many detections can we have in the sample? And quite often we use zero. We call a zero tolerance plan for a seed health test. Okay, so that's what we can actually see in the sample and still make that confidence statement about that lot. The other thing is with reference to the assay itself. Efficacy of detection, okay? Here, for example, we're looking at 80%, and just as an example within this phytosanitary document. What does this mean? This means that we have an 80% confidence or of actually detecting the pathogen in the assay for this testing plan, all right? This is also, for those who maybe use seed calc, this is 1 minus the false negative rate of the assay, all right? That's what we're talking about here. That has reference to the assay itself. Okay, so keep these 4 properties in mind because we're going to come back to this. All right. So building on that, let's do this with seed calc. So seed calc is a tool that's been long established by Jean-Louis and myself, a couple others. It's available on the ISTA website. There's many sheets of which we're only going to be able to look at one today, but there's a neat opportunity to look in more depth at a later point at some of the other utility points within seed calc. But really, seed calc is primarily designed for GMO testing a couple decades ago, but we found utility across the range of tests, including seed health testing. There's a utility which Jean-Louis and I will demonstrate here in a moment. It's a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. It's freely available on the ISTA website. You can go out there today and download it if you want. The latest version is seed calc 8. You go to the technical committees, specifically the statistics committee, and then you go to the statistical tools for seed testing, and then you'll find seed calc 8 that you can download as a zip file, and then you can uncompress it as a Microsoft Excel tool. Great. Okay, let's go back to the specific example here. So, all right. So this within the within seed calc, the qual plan design sheet is one of the sheets that's used quite a bit. We can enter those levels. So we're actually going to enter in the values that are in that phytosanitary document. So first of all, the confidence level there in blue, which is 95%. You can see that we can enter that in these yellow cells. So the yellow cells within seed calc, these are inputs for the user, for you. The other cells are outputs. So we enter that in as a target level of confidence in our result of 95%. Next, we're going to enter in the level of detection. Okay, this is the level of detection in that batch that we want to make a confidence statement about. We enter that in as over here as what we call the LQ, or lower quality level. You put in 5% from that example from the phytosanitary document. And then the number of the acceptance number in the sample. So we enter that at 2 places. One, we're going to enter it in 0 down there. We for our example from the phytosanitary document there in the sheet within that C1, that cell there, C1. But we also, you hit that find plan button and opens a little screen, and you enter, we want to find a zero tolerance plan. This again means that we're going to hold the number acceptance level to 0 as we design it, as we find a test. Okay. Could we please mute, please? Thank you. Then you hit the OK button, and then seed calc. Oh, I forgot one thing. I apologize. We also need to put in the efficacy of detection of 80%. We're going to put that in as a false negative rate. So it's 100 minus 80, that would be 20%. We enter that in over there. So with all those things entered from that example from the phytosanitary document, we calculate what is our sample size, our little n. We hit that OK button that we were showing you there, and we find out that we need 74 individual seeds, okay, to test. If we test 74 individual seeds, if all of them are negative for the pathogen of the particular target, the pathogen target we're testing for, then we can be 95% confident that the true level of infestation in that lot is below 5%. All right. Now this is just an example. You know, in reality, in seed health testing, we're testing seeds in pools, in most instances. So seed calc will allow you to do that. You can test seeds, maybe a pool size of 500 or 1,000 even. You can enter that into seed calc, and that will tell you how many pools of, say, 500 seeds you would need to reach this level of detection. So again, this is just a primer, just a taste, but we hope at some future points to give you a whole feast of the utility of seed calc as well as all the other tools. We're just giving you a taste today. All right. So seed calc is very useful, again, for those commercial seed lots, the large ones, where the sample size is less than 10% of the population size. So we're going to look at, there's another tool available that's by the Statistics Committee. It's another Excel tool. Unfortunately, we don't have it on the ISTA website yet. I imagine we could get you copies if you're interested. But it's something that we hope to do at some future point to put on the ISTA website. But it has a very similar utility. On the left, in fact, you can put in the confidence level, the level of infestation, and also the efficacy of detection, and it will give you that same sample size, okay, for a large seed lot. This is assuming a zero tolerance plan, okay, where you're not having any detections or infestation in your sample. Okay, on the right though is really what we wanted to show you here. Now we add an additional parameter. We add the population size, which in this case is that small, could be a breeding sample, could be a small increase sample in a company. You know, we have 500 seeds. Okay, we add the other three parameters, 95%, 5, and 80, and it gives us a slightly smaller sample of 69 seeds because we have a small population. We don't have to test quite as many seeds. That one's based on the hypergeometric, whereas the one on the left is based on the binomial. So this is consistent with on the left with table 3, the phytosanitary document, and on the right, this is consistent with tables 1 and 2 as well. So that gives you a little bit of a taste for sample size calculations and also the importance of sampling. And I think now I turn it over to my colleague and friend Jean-Louis to carry on to the second topic.
Thank you, Kirk. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. So I will talk about specific analysis of multi-laboratory collaborative studies using a specific tool which is called the Langton Accordance-Concordance tool. Before jumping into the tool, I want to provide you with a refresher on key concepts regarding the analysis of interlaboratory studies, and which is about measurement uncertainty, repeatability, and reproducibility. The literature is very rich around these concepts, and there is one particular document, very important, which is ISO 5725 standard, which defines accuracy of measurement using trueness and precision. And further, the precision in this document is decomposed into two elements, repeatability and reproducibility. So here is a summary of this standard. The key point is accuracy, which is decomposed into two elements, trueness and precision. And precision itself is decomposed into two elements, repeatability and reproducibility. Here is a classical slide, which is used to illustrate trueness and precision. So here you have high trueness and high precision. Here, low trueness and low precision. Here, low trueness and high precision. And here you have high trueness, because if you take the average of the points, it is in the middle of the target, but you have a bad precision. Okay, so trueness is usually expressed as a bias, which is the difference between the observed mean and the reference value. Well, the problem is how to define the reference value. Sometimes we know the true value, but sometimes not. But this will not be the topic for this presentation. And precision is usually expressed as a standard deviation. Okay, so let me develop a little bit more on precision. So precision, I said that it can be decomposed into two components, repeatability and reproducibility. So what is repeatability? Repeatability is, it's a precision, but under particular conditions. So you are dealing with the same method in the same lab, the same analyst analyze the results using the same equipment, and the period of analysis should be short. Whereas for reproducibility, the conditions are different. You are using the same method, but different labs, for sure different analysts, because you have different labs, and maybe different equipment. Okay, so these are the two important concepts regarding precision, repeatability and reproducibility. So now let me put this concept in the context of multi-laboratory study. So you get the results of the test, the inter-laboratory test. So you have many results, and we denote these results by the letter Y. And Y is modeled by M, which is the general mean, or it can be the reference value or the average of all the results, plus a laboratory effect, the red points, plus a repeatability effects, which are the deviation within each laboratory to the mean of each laboratory. Okay, so this is our basic model to analyze these interlaboratory studies. Now, from this model, we can derive variance. The first variance we can estimate is interlaboratory variance. Okay, this is the variance across the means of the laboratories. The second variance we can derive is the intralaboratory variance, and we assume that this intralaboratory variance is the same across laboratories, and this is a reasonable assumption, which is stated in the ISO 5725 standard, because usually the methods are well normalized. Okay, so now we have everything to derive the repeatability standard deviations and the reproducibility standard deviation. The repeatability standard deviation is the intra-laboratory standard deviation, and the reproducibility standard deviation is a function of the interlaboratory variance and the intralaboratory variance or repeatability variance. Okay, so this is how repeatability standard deviation and reproducibility standard deviations are defined. Now, to compute them, there are some recommendations in the ISO 5725 standard. Okay, so you have some equations to derive these estimates of the repeatability and reproducibility standard deviation. But there is a much more flexible way to do the computation. It is to use the mixed model technology. This technology is implemented in many commercial software or free software like R. And we have used this technology to develop an application in R for the analysis of germination interlaboratory studies. The benefits of using mixed model is that it can work on unbalanced data set, that is, data set with missing values, and you can still estimate correctly the repeatability and the reproducibility standard deviation. Okay, so everything I have talked about is about quantitative data, okay, like germination percentage, etc. But what about this type of data? So suppose we want to validate a new detection method of a seed pathogen, and for this we have 3 lots with 3 samples each distributed to 6 labs. And here are the results for the new method and for one particular lot. So for example, here you can see that lab 1 detect the pathogen in sample 1, in sample 2, and in sample 3. Whereas lab 6 didn't detect the pathogen in sample 1, detected in sample 2, but do not detect it in sample 3. So with this data, how to compute repeatability and reproducibility variance or standard deviation, okay? We cannot use the mixed model technology for this type of data. So what to do? So there is a key paper from Langton and Hall from 2002, which says that the usual measure of repeatability and reproducibility are inapplicable. This is the methodologies I showed you previously. And for this, they have introduced 2 new measures, accordance, which is the equivalent of repeatability for this type of data, and concordance, which is the equivalent of reproducibility for this type of binary data. Okay, so let's see in more details what are these accordance and concordance. So accordance is a probability, and more specifically, it's the probability that 2 results on the same material and the same lab are identical, okay? So how do we compute it from this small data set? So for a given lab, there are 3 possible pairs of results. Rep1, Rep2, Rep1, Rep3, Rep2, Rep3, okay? So there are 3 pairs. For lab 1, the number of pairs giving the same result, evidently, is 3. So then we can compute the probability that 2 samples give the same result in this particular lab. And it is equal to 3 divided by the total number of pairs, 3, and it's equal to 100%. The same for lab 2, the same for lab 3, the same for lab 4. What about lab 5? For lab 5, the number of pairs giving the same result is equal to 1. So the probability that 2 samples give the same result is equal to 33%. Okay? So then accordance will be defined by averaging all these probabilities across the labs, and we get 78% as a mean. So accordance for this particular data set is equal to 78%. Here are the mathematical details, but they are just, I just show them just for reference, okay? Now about concordance. Concordance is also a probability, and it is the probability that two results on the same material, but from two different labs, are identical. Okay, so how do we compute this probability for our example? So for lab 1, the number of pairs with the other labs giving the same result is equal to 36. So you can count manually this number of pairs giving the same results with the other labs. Okay, and in this example, it's equal to 36. For lab 2, we don't take into account lab 1, and we find 27. And for lab 5, we are just counting the number of pairs giving the same results with lab 6. We ignore the previous labs, and we find four results which are common to these two labs. Okay, so then we sum up all the numbers, and we get 94 pairs giving the same result. The total number of possible pairs is equal to 135, and then the probability is just the ratio of these two numbers, 94 divided by 135, and in this particular example, we find 70%. Okay, here are the mathematical details only for reference. So these computations can be performed with Langton accordance and concordance tool that you can get freely from the ISTA website. So you go to technical committee, seed health committee, then you will see seed health toolbox, and you will find the Langton accordance and concordance tool, and you can download the tool. So this tool is an Excel spreadsheet. So let's see how we make the computation using our small example. We enter here the data, so the number of samples, 3 everywhere, and the number of positive samples, 3 for the first one, 2 for lab 5, and 1 for lab 6. Okay, and then you will get the accordance, 78%, and the concordance, 70%. You have additional feature like you can compute the confidence interval using the bootstrap method. So here the confidence interval is very large because we don't have a lot of samples. So we have some uncertainty. Okay. Now let's see another example. We want to compare two methods for pathogen detection. So we conduct a multi-laboratory collaborative study. So we consider 3 lots, 3 samples per lot, and we have 7 laboratories participating in this collaborative study. So here are the results for method 1 and for method 2. And the question is, which method is the most effective? So what do we do when we have this type of data? We will use the Langton tool to compute accordance and concordance for each of the method and each of the lot, because we cannot, we have to do that lot by lot. So for example, method 1 and lot 1 and lot 3, these are the data. We enter this data into the Langton tool, and we get for accordance 90.5%, which is quite high, and for concordance 90.5%. Okay. Here is a summary of the results for all the lots and all the methods. So for accordance, method 2 appears to be better than method 1. The accordance are greater than for method 2 than for method 1. For concordance, well, it's more difficult to say. For lot 1, we have good concordance for method 2. For lot 3, it's the same. But for lot 2, well, there is a problem, even for method 1. Well, you have to make a decision, but yeah, it will be difficult because here it's not very clear. Okay, thank you for your attention, and with Kirk, we are ready to take questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Kirk and Jean-Louis, for those really great and detailed presentation. Really, you captured a really complex issue and you summarize it very nicely and very approachably. So I think a lot of people could relate to the presentation. We already have some questions on the chat, and I will, if that is okay with you, I will go by them by order and see if we can answer the question. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes, yeah.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So let's start with the first question that I see here, and I'm sorry if I'm missing, please let me know if I'm missing something. So first question, if level of infestation detection is 5%, then how do we have a zero tolerance policy?
Yeah. That's a very good question, and it's come up a lot over the years. Yeah. So really, we're talking about, in this case, zero tolerance in the sample. So we have this larger population, remember, the large one. Then we take a sample size of N seeds. We're talking about zero tolerance in the sample. So if we see, in our example, if we see those, I think it was 74 seeds, if all those are negative for the pathogen, then we can be 95% confident that the level of infestation is less than 5% in the larger population. So that's the connection. We're talking about zero tolerance in the sample, not necessarily in the lot. We don't really know this because we didn't test every seed in the lot. So that was a really good question for us all.
Okay. I'm going to next one. Thank you, Kirk. Okay. With small sample size seed lots, you demonstrate in the example to test 76 seeds. General seed-off methods are validated with a fixed amount of seeds. Although you can calculate the small amount of seeds to test, do you think that we should mix the small seed lot number of seed with a clean seed lot to reach the test required amounts, or is this statistically just to do?
Yeah, I did make a response in the chat there, Ruud, for that, to your question. I'll make a comment. I'd love to hear Jean-Louis' thoughts here too. But I think if you're including lots, I can see maybe a couple reasons why you might do this. Maybe you combine the lots so that you increase your working sample size, which would increase your level of confidence or reduce your level of detection. So you may make a better statement about that combined lot. So yeah, I suppose you could do this if indeed you do mix those two lots and mix them together well, and then you can make a stronger statement. I don't know if I understood completely there, Ruud, but I guess the other thing too, that potentially you have one lot that where you get a detection and now you mix it with a pure lot. I think we'd be very careful there, quite cautious. You need to mix those two lots together, and you probably need to some kind of retest and to make sure you understand that level of infestation. That would be a situation where for that pathogen or whatever property you're testing for, you have some tolerance, for infestation. So something like maybe TOBRV, maybe not, but maybe some other more pathogens that are maybe there's some tolerance for some nominal low-level presence of it, then maybe you could mix. So, Ruud, please, I maybe misunderstood your question, so please re-ask if I didn't answer.
No, you did a great job, Kirk. The only question it comes from the thing that method uses buffer volumes, which are also fixed in the validation. And if you lower the seed amount, then your buffer seed ratio will not be correct anymore. But hearing your answer just gives that you have to validate smaller. If you're going to test smaller seed samples, test with smaller amounts of volume and validate those methods correctly.
Yeah. Maybe related to that, if we could, we gave an example where we're testing individual seeds, And like I had mentioned before, you know, in seed health testing, we're usually testing in pools or groups. You know, usually of 100 seeds, 500 seeds, maybe 1,000 seeds. You know, and so we would validate the assay accordingly, right, to whatever pool size, to where we can get a detection. And this actually gives a link over to Marty's question that we'll answer in a moment. So, and Jean-Louis, did you want to add anything?
No, just as Ruth said, my understanding is that we cannot mix seed lots, but yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jean-Louis, thank you, Kirk. I will go to the next question. In the SITCAC software, if the efficiency detection is higher than 80%, how does this factor impact the minimum number of seeds required for an accurate test outcome? Will this significantly increase the number of seeds needed?
You can take this one, Kirk.
Please.
So, well, you have to play, huh? You have to play, you have to try and see how this affects the number of seeds to sample. It depends on the level of detection. There are many factors affecting how the relationship between the sample size and the level of detection. So you have to play with the tool to see how it decrease, how it increase. Maybe there are some testing plans which are robust regarding efficacy of detection. So in the past, with Kirk, we worked a lot on robust testing plans. But yeah, I encourage you to see how it change, etc.
Yeah.
Kirk, maybe you might want to add something.
I fully agree. Yeah, that's one nice thing about the CCalc tool is you can play, you can try things and see how it affects. Now, for this question specifically, as the efficacy of detection goes up, this means that your false negative rate is coming down, or your assay is more. It's a stronger assay. It's a better assay. Because of that, your sample size will actually come down in this specific case. Jean-Louis is right, you know, that you can play as you change these parameters and you can see how the sample size will go up or down. In this specific case, as the efficacy detection goes up from 80 to 90%, the sample size will come down some because your assay is giving you more information in the test.
And you will be able to play with the other tool when it will be available in the ISTA website.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that brings it to the question that I asked here about the false negative. So the false negative, again, by the way, false negative is a very problematic world in the seed health testing. We don't like to hear false negatives. But can you explain? I'm not sure that I fully understand what does the false negative value mean, the 20% false negative or the efficacy. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah. Jean-Louis, it's up to you. Should I take it or do you want to take it, my friend?
You can take it.
Okay. Yeah, so the false negative rate is related to that efficacy of detection. Efficacy of detection, they're complementary. Efficacy of detection is stating things, you know, in terms of your confidence in your assay. False negative rate is stating things the other way. But yeah, so let's see. So an efficacy detection of 80% equates to a false negative rate of 20%. What does this mean? It means, you know, that assay, if indeed that pool that you're testing, an individual seed or seed pool is positive, the error we would make, or a false negative, would mean we don't detect it, right? We're not able to see it. And so that means we have a 20% chance of not getting a positive for a pool that indeed is positive.
So that's the false negative of the method itself. It has nothing to do with the seed lot.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It has to do with the false negative and false positive rates are with reference to the assay itself only.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's go to next question. Can this approach of concordance and accordance be applied to GMO or other kind of test? How they uneven? Oh, okay, this is a different question. Let's start with the GMO.
Well, it can be applied to every kind of type of test as long as you have binary data. So yeah, for GMO, I'm not. I'm trying to think, but well, yeah, well, it can be applied because sometimes we are just losing detected or yes or no. So we could imagine to apply this method for computing repeatability, reproducibility in a collaborative test. Yeah, every time you have binary response, yes or no, present, absent, positive, negative, you can apply this, you can use this Langton accordance concordance tool.
Okay. Thank you. Next question. How the uneven distribution of the pathogen in the seed lot may affect the sampling, and how can we manage that?
You can manage that by taking multiple primary samples. And ISTA has well, the tables elaborated by ISTA are optimized to make sure that you capture infested seeds in your seed lots. So you need, as we said, the seed lot needs to be uniform, but with multiple primary samples, and the number of primary samples provided by ISTA are a good guidelines to make sure you capture some invested seeds. Now, the problem is different if you are in a field. If you are sampling fields, taking, for example, kernels from the ears in the field. So here we have some strategy which are grid sampling plans. So to make sure that you are capturing well the spatial variation in your field. But it's another topic. But we have solutions also for that.
Thank you, Jean-Louis. And one last question, when we get the time. How do you define a small lot? What's the maximum size of a small lot?
Kirk, I can take it.
Please.
You can use the rule of thumb Kirk showed you. The difficulty with a small lot is that, well, the binomial distribution is very useful distribution for making computations because it's relatively simple. When you deal with the hypergeometric distribution, technically it's more difficult. And so we are happy when we can deal with we can use the binomial distribution to do the computations. But at some point, you have equivalence between the two distributions in terms of results. And the rule of thumb that was mentioned in the slide from Kirk can be useful to define small lot versus commercial seed lot. Also, if you use the new tool that we have developed and that will be, I hope it will be published in the ISTA website soon, you can play and you will see a convergence of the results depending on how many seeds are used to define your small seed lot.
Thank you, Jean-Louis. We are right on time. We are at the end of the webinar. I would like to thank everyone for joining in. I would like to thank Kirk and Jean-Louis for their presentation, their patience with the questions, and their really a good approach of sharing information. It was really educational, and thank you very much for that. Thank you, Rose, for organizing this meeting, hopefully one of many. And thank you, Ruud, for the introduction and for every Nishi working with you. Okay, we're out of time.
Thank you very much, everybody. Take care, everyone. See you, everybody, very soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You.